Hello, this is AKHILESH C.Prabhakar. Today I am going to discuss on comparative advantage theory. The classical, new classical, Keynesian, post-Keynesian, modern economists, almost all economists, they are discussing about equilibrium, disequilibrium and adjustment by market forces. Almost all economists, these classical, new classical and modern economists, directly, indirectly influenced by Adam Smith, Ricardo and J.S. Mill. David Ricardo's theory on comparative advantage, which is suggested that all trading partners or all nations will be benefited from international trade if trading partner or nations specialize in which they have abundant resources under laissez-faire environment. So two basic principles, laissez-faire and specialization, it means international division of labor. These principles based on these two pillars, specialization, it means international division of labor, and laissez-faire, it means least government intervention. On the basis of these two pillars, he assumed that there is no technological change, no transportation cost, no change in prices of commodities. So David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage suggests that a specialization and free trade will benefit all trading partners, even when some are absolutely more efficient producers than others. According to comparative advantage theory, the demand and the supply forces determines price of factors and commodities, and resources allocate efficiently to produce quantity of commodities that will reach automatically at equilibrium point with a perfect competition under free market conditions on the basis of the two basic principles, whatever we discussed just now, laissez-faire and international division of labor. He assumed that there are no technological change, no transportation cost, and no change in prices of commodities. On the basis of these assumptions, theory suggests that all nations should specialize in which resources are abundant. So firms can produce commodities at cheapest and export their products to other countries. Therefore, all firms or nations will gain from international trade. That is main, I think, basic principle of the classical, new classical and modern economists. Although comparative advantage theory fails to address if firms or nations supposed to be benefited in a laissez-faire environment, how the market forces will distribute the increased wealth among workers. If workers do not receive the equal amount whatever they produce and add an additional value of commodity, what it called surplus value. Ricardo examines surplus value not as such in its pure form, but in the particular forms of profit, rent and interest. It is an error of his theory. If workers do not receive the equal amount whatever they produce and add an additional value of commodities, that is surplus value, that additional value which is created by the workers directly goes to the producer's pockets. What it called in terms of profits. So it is unpaid amount to the workers, mainly the root cause of the problem of income inequality worldwide today. While resources are efficiently utilized, comparative advantage theory, however, neglects to consider whether such trading is fair or equitable. The world has witnessed for you rising global inequality over periods of both growth and fall. There is a need to address old questions whether rising income inequality is a predictable outcome or a necessary factor of economic development, or whether it is possible and even desirable to reduce income inequality in order to achieve more inclusive development as well as to overcome the present economic challenges and create the condition necessary for a more sustainable in long run. Since 1990s, when new globalization era started, the heated debate on the increasing income inequality has been going on still, and the liberal economists, they have no solution how to solve the problems of the society, like income inequality, widening income inequality gap among the people or between the nations, or poverty or backwardness or illiteracy or malnutrition. These problems worldwide now people facing today, even since the industrial revolution during 17th century. Since industrial revolution to till date, we have failed to solve the problems like poverty, backwardness, or income inequality, unemployment problems, malnutrition, or illiteracy. These problems, the current system, which is based on these economic theory and principles, they have no answer how to solve these problems of the society. Eventually, there was a wide consensus that trade had played a relatively modest role in depressing the relative wages of less skilled workers in those countries, and that therefore it was not the dominant or even an important factors for explaining the increase in income inequality. This increased income inequality was attributed mainly due to skill-based technological progress, due to modern technology, because producer or corporates always change, update their technology. Why? Because they wanted to compete with the others. So that's why, to maximize their profits, they always try to update, change modern technology by replacing older technology. When we update new technology, we change old technology. So existing unskilled labor may lost lost their jobs. Existing labor lost their jobs, and updating technology, those skilled labor are able to do or work with updated technology. They receive higher salary than unskilled laborers. That is another factor, another reason for creating inequality among them. That is many reasons. It is, however, surprising that the world's wealth had reached a record $263 trillion in mid-2014, which is almost $20 trillion more. Wealth had increased with 8.3% ratio when compared to mid-2013. It's almost double than 2000. In one hand, and world economy face recession in other hand, resulting unemployment ratio rising in upward direction. The situation is really worst when top richest 1% people accumulated more wealth than 3.5 billion people who just survive with 1% wealth. The 500 richest people currently own $1.54 trillion, which is more than entire GDP of Africa. The top 1% of the global population had more than 50% of global wealth, less than 50% goes to the rest of 99%, or to put in other words, 62 billionaires have as much wealth as about 50% of the global population in 2015. The Oxfam International predicts that the wealth of 1% of the richest people in the world amounts to $110 trillion, and if this trend continues, then they can control more wealth than 99% people in 2016. In the real world, it is a general business practice that only those firms or corporations have good connection with the ruling gangs. Such firms, corporations would be winner or benefited from the current system. It's called crony capitalism. The successful business depends on close relationship between business leaders and the ruling gangs through favoritism in the distribution of legal permits, public grants and tax reliefs. Crony capitalism is an economy that is nominally free market but allows for preferential regulation and other favorable government intervention based on personal relationship. The government treats them, a powerful private corporate sector, as new business leader, provide a dirty cheap land on rent or lease basis, almost free electricity and tax relaxation, and public projects like mining, coal, power sectors, petroleum, oil and gas and infrastructure sectors, road, railways, bridges, human development projects on education and health, to establish managerial and training institutions, real estate, dam and telecom, etc. Crony capitalism is greatly responsible for all types of economic ills because majority people are not only alienated but out from all economic and commercial activity, and even small and medium scale industry not able to compete with the powerful corporate sectors, private corporate sectors. This condition is responsible for economic recession. Today, capitalism has reached a certain level of centralization of capital that cannot be compared to the situation even 50 years ago. At this stage, where among 5,000 odd oligopolies, the most powerful 2,000 oligopolies who control every production and organization of exchange in the world, they control almost 70% of international trade, 30% of world GDP and 85% of FDI worldwide. This is a terrific level of centralization of capital, very different from the scenario prevalent in the early 20th century, dominated by monopolies. These oligopolies have the capacity to control not merely the economic, but the political sphere is striking. This centralization is the basis on which unequal distribution of income has become possible. But it has led a shift in gravity from the productive sector to the redistribution of profit among the oligopolies through the means of financial investment. This is the secret behind the financialization of the global capitalism. The capitalist system is a system that enriches the very few at the expense of the vast majority, resulting lack of demand today. This economic system has contributed to widening social inequalities both within and between nations. Under global capitalism, mounting poverty is not the result of a scarcity or a lack of human and material resources. Quite the opposite holds true. The economic depression is marked by a process of disengagement of human resources and physical capital. The rate of return on investment begins to dwindle and overcapacity builds. that causes declining profits, which lead to belt tightening, rising unemployment and falling demand even worldwide, but especially in the European countries like Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, Holland, including the United States. As investment drops off further, growth slow correspondingly, and the economy dips into a protracted slump. This corrosive stagnation is the challenge today that all advanced capitalist economies faced. Financial innovation had created vast new opportunity for investment and profit making, there is no doubt. Due to international finance capital dominated service sectors, we can see in the United States receive 40% profit. That 40% profits goes to the service sectors. And more or less rest of the world put public debt burden constitutes a pseudo artificial, unrealistic and mismatched with the real physical economy. Society can be divided analytically into two parts. The forces of production, it means means of production, and the relations of production means mode of production. The forces of production are the technology used by the society in producing material goods and commodities, manifested in labor skills, scientific knowledge, tools and capital goods. They are inherently dynamic. The relations of production are the rules of the game. There are relations between one person and another, or social relations, and relations between people and things, or property relations. New liberal economists simply accepted markets and did not consider the nature of private property and the effect that the existence of markets had on people. It had necessary to study the connection between private property and the alienation of labor, capital and landed property, between exchange and competition, value and the devaluation of man, monopoly and competition, etc. New liberal economists did not consider how the forces of production would undermine the relations of production. Once the market had created the forces of production that could meet people's material needs, the alienation inherent in property rights and market would lead individuals to free themselves from the markets and create a society that would eliminate private property and the alienation associated with it. There is no doubt, as I believe, technology of course can produce more and more goods and commodities, even at cheapest. But technology, it is reality, technology cannot consume goods and commodities. So the liberal economists did not address it. The classical economists maintained that capital accumulation leads to an increased demand for labor and a rise in the real wage of labor. If wages continue to rise with capital accumulation, the level of profits would fall. It is true that there is always an excess supply of labor in the market, which has the effect of depressing wages and keeping surplus value and profit positive. That is, main contradictions of the current economic system, or we say capitalist systems, main contradictions. The capitalist search for profits leads them to introduce new machines, therefore increasing the capital intensity in the economy. The workers displaced by the new technology, whatever we discussed earlier, are not absorbed into other areas of the economy. One of the important contradictions between the forces and relations of production would lead ultimately to the destruction of capitalism is the falling rate of profit. Competition in commodity and labor markets would lead to a fall in profits in the following way. there is a strong drive for the capitalist to accumulate capital. Capital accumulation means that more capital will bid for labor, forcing up wages and reducing the size of the reserve army of the unemployed, and the rate of profit will fall. Competition in commodity markets will also result in a continuous decrease in the rate of profit, because the capitalist will keep trying to reduce the cost of production in order to sell final output at lower prices. The economics profession, particularly in the universities, rarely address the actual problems of the real world, which is functioning of markets. Theoretical constructs centered on mathematical models serve to represent an abstract, fictional world in which individuals are equal. There is no theoretical distinctions between workers, consumers, or corporations, all of which are referred to as individual traders. No single individual has the power or ability to influence the market, nor can there be any conflict between workers and capitalists within this abstract world. The new liberal economist did not focus on contradictions between labor and capital. By failing to examine the interplay of powerful economic actors in the real life economy, the process of market rigging, financial manipulation, and fraud are overlooked. The concentration and centralization of economic decision making, the role of the financial elites, the economic think tanks, the corporate boardrooms, none of these issues are examined in the university's economics program today. The theoretical construct is dysfunctional. It cannot be used to provide an understanding of the economic crisis. Economic science is an ideological construct which serves to concealment and justify the new world order. A set of dogmatic postulates serves to uphold free market capitalism by denying the existence of social inequality, and the profit-driven nature of the system is denied. The role of powerful economic actors and how these actors are able to influence the workings of financial and commodity market is not a matter of concern for the discipline's theoreticians. The powers of market manipulation, which serves to appropriate vast amounts of money wealth, are rarely addressed, and when they are acknowledged, they are considered to belong to the ring of sociology or political science. The policy and institutional framework behind this global economic system, which has been shaped in the course of the last 30 years, is rarely analyzed by mainstream economists. It follows that economics as a discipline, with some exceptions, has not provided the analysis required to comprehend the economic crisis. In fact, its main free market postulates deny the existence of a crisis. Now, I am going to conclude. Comparative advantage or cost opportunity theory is no longer. It can be applied only through neutralized state and the market forces. Free market with perfect competition-based concept became irrelevant in the past. To solve the problems of the society like poverty, backwardness, unemployment, malnutrition, illiteracy, inflation, or income inequality gap among people and between nations, there is a need to make a well-planned democratic state based on people-oriented policy applications. Crony capitalism should be abolished. It creates poverty, unemployment, inequality that includes gender inequality, malnutrition, and illiteracy, and environmental degradation, etc. If the wealth or assets fairly distribute for community development, then of course the broader community will be benefited. The basic principle of the mainstream economists, namely man is able to control the behavior of market, was totally wrong. Other prices of commodities and factors or resources are determined by the market forces, such as denied and supply forces were also wrong. So it is very clear. It is very clear that the current systems led by big private corporate sectors, or we can say big powerful oligopolies, almost 2000, just I want to repeat again, these 2000 oligopolies who are able to control almost all production and exchange worldwide today. And the main problem of the society, they are not able to solve the problems of the society, and main fault, main error of the classical or new classical or even modern economists, that liberal economists did not properly address how to solve these problems of the society and wealth, how we could fairly redistribute wealth among the people, and main issues like, just I would like to remind, suppose workers eating, it is an additional value of commodities. So additional value of commodities which is created by the workers, not receiving the same amount whatever they produce, because the liberal or new liberal economists like Adam Smith or Ricardo or J.S. Mill or even Keynes or post-Keynesian economists did not address on what basis market forces determine wage of labor or wage of workers, on what basis, what scientific basis, how the market force determined, even the supply and demand forces determine wage rate of the workers. They fail to address it. So thank you very much.